O whakaronga ki ki te tangi atu manu e runga rau e tui. Ai runga tui ai raro. Tui ai roto, tui ai waho. A tui a te herenga tangata, ka runga te ao, ka runga te pō, ti hei Mui-Robotics. A te mihi tuatahi, mihi kina atua kaha rawa, a ho mai o kaha, ho mai o aroa ki a mātou e tēnei wā, e nā wā katoa hoki. A ka huri au taka whakaaro, a ki nā tini aitawa, ko ehe atu ki te pō. Ai o ia marae, o ia taki wā, a haere atu rā. A ki te rakatera, o taku whānau whaka, i Waitaha, i te wako auraki, ko Ben Awhitu, te aitua i ngā nahi. Ai, kia koe, te rangatira, hoia rā tō waka Whakamutunga ki te taho tō tūpuna, hoia rā. Ai e nā mate, moi mai rā. Apati hono tātou hono rātou ki a rātou, apati hono tātou hono tātou ki a tātou tonga ora. Tēnā koutou. Ai, ki nā manuhiri, ka tū ki te wero ki a mātou, Aim, John, hei te mihi ki a kōrua. Ai, ki nā ringa raupā, nā kaikaunihira hoki, o nā iwi e noho nei, nā iwi e mātaki nei, ai tēnā koutou. Nau mai hara mai ki tēnei hui o te kaunihira tai o ki Waitaha, ki te raro te tūnui o tēnei whare o tātou, i roto i te rohi o nai tua huriri, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou. Aho atu te rākau ki a Councillor Mackay mo te Karakia. Kia ora.
Kia ora, o tu whakatakata hau ki te uru. Whakatakata hau ki te uru, whakatakata hau ki te tonga. Kia mā kina ku uta, kia mā taratara katai. Ihi āki ana te arakura, hei tio, hei hoka, hei hauhu, ti hei
Yay, Mui-Robotics.
So in English, that cease the winds from the west, cease the winds from the south. It is cold inland, it is cold at shore. The red dawn rises, a touch of frost. Behold, there is life. Quite relevant today, I think.
Thank you, Councillor Pauling, and thank you, Councillor Mackay for the Mihi and the Karakia. Welcome to the 558th Council meeting for Environment Canterbury. I'd just like to note that we have Keller McDuff in the room, so welcome, Keller. And I'm not too sure who that other person is from here. I can't see, but I understand. Yeah, I understand your media also. Cool, thank you. David, is it you, Dave? It is you. It is. I need to clean my glasses. Sorry about that. My apologies. I should know. I've been informed there is a quorum present, and I'm pleased to declare the meeting open. This meeting will be recorded and be available later on our website. There has been a change in order in business, and we will go to PX. And we may have to split PX, but we will go to PX after item 7. And then we've got another item of PX that we'll do at 10:12 when we've got an advisor coming in, which is just Councillor Ronnie in that PX. Apology.
You might just want to tell people what PX is.
Public Excluded.
Peter.
Yes, Public Excluded. Thanks. Haven't got any apologies that I'm aware of, but we have got Councillor Ian Cramwell online, and we've also got Councillor Paul Deche online. So just noting that I haven't been made aware of any conflicts of interest. We have 2 public sessions today, and I'd like to ask the first of those presentations, which is Aim Wongwan, to come to the table. Aim, and you wanted to get a photo. Aim, do you want to do that now, or do you want to do that? Yeah, pick the best looking councillor. It won't be up this end of the table. Milligan. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So once again, I'm welcome. Amos from Mui-Robotics. Been going for 10 years. And you'll need to push your button, Amos.
Thank you. For us, our company has been in research for smell sensing technology for 20 years. We've only just been started commercializing our products in at the start of 2021.
So thank you for that clarification. You have 10 minutes available to you, and just please remember to push the button. At the end of the 10 minutes, we'll have questions of clarification from councillors. So that's over to you.
Well, good morning, councillors. I'm Aim, CEO of Mui-Robotics, and it is my honor to be here today to talk to you about the pressing issues that affects us all: smell pollution. As we all know, smell pollution is caused by a variety of factors, including natural sources like rotting organic matters and human activities such as industrializations. Today, I want to focus specifically on the role that industrialization plays in contributing to smell pollutions. Industrialization has undoubtedly brought many positive changes in our society, including increased economic growth, job creation, and technological advancements. However, it also comes with its fair share of negative externalities, one of which is smell pollutions. The growth of industries, factories, and manufacturing facilities have led to emission of various chemicals and gases that are responsible for the unpleasant smells that we experience in our daily lives. These smells can have significant impact on our quality of life, affecting our health, mood, and even property values. And therefore, it is important that we address the issue head on and take a step to mitigate the impact of industrializations on smell pollutions. Today, I will be presenting our environmental monitoring solution for ECAN for a pilot project to improve the quality of life for ourselves and for our future generations. So the current method of smell identification is, well, using human nose. And the problem with human nose is that it has bias, very inaccurate, costly, has potential health impact, non-sustainable, time-consuming, and last but not least, we can't do smell monitoring 24 hours, 7 days a week. Introducing Mui-Robotics environmental monitoring solutions. Our eNose station can detect the entire spectrum of odors, combining it with artificial intelligence. The eNose simulates the human nose and its entire mental process of human classification, recognition, and olfactory imprinting of odor emission with 99% accuracy. Our eNose station uses non-specific gas sensors that work in a sensors array and mimics the human nose. It also has the ability to differentiate unpleasant smells via AI machine learning and sense alert when the smell is above the acceptable thresholds. It also has the ability to detect direction of the source of the smell and toxic gases. It has noise monitoring function as well as 24 hours real-time temperature, humidity, and rain sensors. More importantly, it is robust and low maintenance. How does it work? Just like teaching a baby or training a dog about smell, we use the machine learning AI to teach the eNose station the specific scent that needs to be identified, and if the smell is prolonged for a certain period of time, it will send an alert to the reporting system to let the assigned organization take action. This is especially helpful as an early detection for resource management and reducing public complaints. Now, some of us may wonder what's the difference between an electronic nose and gas detectors. There are two types of gas sensors, specific sensors and non-specific sensors. Specific sensors detect single compounds, for example, toxic gases like ammonia or methane in part per million units. And non-specific gas sensors is for general purposes. Our ENO stations uses non-specific sensors that works in a sensor array to cover and represents the receptor of human nose with 99% accuracy. By setting up the ENO station in a problematic area in the city, we can detect the source of the smell as well as a real-time data reports of when the smell becomes a problem. We can then assign a workforce to a specific time to fix the source of the smell. Our system features are as follows. We have real-time data trending, the IoT of things, Internet of Things, smell source identification with AI and machine learning. We have data visualizations. We have complete data protection, flexible alarming, and of course the browser-based access. These are some use cases that of our ENOS station in various industry. So, for example, coal power plant in Thailand, we do a 24 hours monitoring because we get a lot of complaints from the members of the public. Petrochemical plants, for example, timber plant uses lacquer or chemicals to preserve timber, and this actually helps to monitor the smell. Garbage dumped, we have 24 hours monitoring and early detection of smell warning with emergency plan and a conflict reduction plan. Livestock farms, we do monitoring on methane gas in, for example, in chicken close off chicken factories, or in factories, for example, like a meat producing factory where it gives off unpleasant smell at certain times. We have worked closely with the community and with the community stakeholders and experts in Thailand to ensure that our solution is not only innovative, but also responsible and sustainable. We recognize that our solution is one piece of the puzzle in a larger effort for sustainable environment for us and for our future generations. And for me, as a member of this community, I would like the opportunity to work in a partnership with the City Council to help address the challenge that we face and build a brighter future for our city. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Aim. That's a pretty interesting presentation. Councillors, questions? Councillor Swiggs.
Hey, thanks for the presentation. It's interesting stuff, and I suppose the world of artificial intelligence is definitely moving forward very quickly, and how it's going to change the world, I suppose, on its own. But one question I had is you're talking about smell, but one of the other issues that we have here in Environment Canterbury is dust and monitoring dust.
Yes.
So you need to press your button here.
We have the monitoring system which monitor the PM 2.5 dust as well, and it also gives out alert in the system to warn the public that, hey, for example, in Thailand, especially in Chiang Mai, we have huge problem with dust, and the system actually alert the government, and it informs the member of publics to wear masks and stay in home to keep themselves protected as well.
And that would pick up things like silica dust and anything like that that's coming from potential sources. I don't know, but all of that, it can be programmed in through the system. Okay. Awesome, thank you.
Morena. I'd just like to talk what my colleague just said about the interesting presentation that you've just done. Can I just point of clarification? So you flicked across one of those slides where this thing is actually operating, and that's overseas. So are there any examples of the use of this technology in New Zealand?
I've only just moved to New Zealand 2 years ago, moved back to New Zealand 2 years ago, and I haven't really seen anything like that. And in actual fact, our company, our startup, is actually one of the very first in the world that has succeeded in the ability to mimic 99.99% human smell sense.
So, yeah, I just need a clarification though. Do you, so you're not presently operating in New Zealand? This is a startup.
Yes, this is a startup. We are not presently. We haven't been overseas. We just started in Germany, and since I have moved back to New Zealand, I would like to bring my the technology to New Zealand.
So it's your technology. You own the IP. This is your company. Right. Good. Thank you.
Thank you. Really interesting. And I've worked on as a contaminated land site investigation person before, and this was some years ago where I did have to use my nose and go, oh, is that kerosene? Is that diesel? So to have something that could potentially go, yeah. Sorry, with my nose, so when you press a button, it pulls it away from me. With this, does it go down to then identifying in more detail specifically the compounds or the sources of the odor, or the types of odor? You can get that data out. It's not just going smell above smell. No.
We can install specific gas sensors to detect various toxic gases, and with machine learning, for example, previously, smell is one of the hardest technological advancements that we have currently in the industry of AI or robotics. Sights, touch, and hearing, it has been very, very well refined. There's very, very little when it comes to smell sense or taste. And in order for our product to work flawlessly, it needs to be taught, just like how a dog needs to be taught about various type of smells. And once it is taught, if that type of smell came through the wind, it will immediately notify, if it goes above the threshold, it will immediately notify the organizations that, hey, you need to take action, otherwise you get public complaints.
So if I'm understanding, then essentially this nose would be trained not to identify any smell that might drift across, but trained to recognize the smell from a known source, from a known process, and be checking to make sure it's staying. The smell is of the type that it's being trained to detect. It's making sure that it's not exceeding a certain limit, or so it's not quite like the human nose where you've gathered a heap of different smell potential recognition, and that where you walk around you pick it, it's detecting that known thing.
It can be taught to smell various type of things. For example, in coffee industry, one of the pain point of our clients is that when it comes to QC, each person have to go through smell 200 coffees per day, and that is rather very painful on health. And after 2 minutes, normally human nose becomes desensitized to the smell, and it's a very, very expensive operation, and we have successfully implement that with Nestle's, and we are in discussion with Starbucks and various other companies to solve this pain point for them.
Thank you, Aim. Look, we're going to run out of time here, but David and then Genevieve, and then we'll wrap this up.
Thank you. A very interesting concept. Our farming industry, rightly or wrongly, is accused of excessive methane discharges. If we sat one of your machines in the middle of a paddock of a dairy cows, are you confident that the level of methane that's being emitted could be recorded?
I'm very confident, and it can actually give you a data, you know, to analyze as well. You know, we take a lot of pride in our company's motto is smell you can see.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I was looking forward to that. Firstly, just two questions actually. Does it detect unrecognizable smells? If it hasn't been programmed to, you know, recognize something, does it alert you to say there's something that is of concern, but we don't know what it is, or, you know, along those lines? That was my first question, and then I'll come back. Sorry.
Unfortunately, it doesn't. It needs to be trained in for a specific sense. Unlike for AI, unlike humans, you know, it does not possess creativity. Yeah.
Just a second question. The determining cost, you know, the installation, or, you know, what's the average cost of installing something that functions for this sort of thing? And is there an associated sort of trial sort of costs, or?
There is an associated trial cost if for normally the for a company for an organization normally subscribe our product for 3 months just to try out to see whether this has worked or not. And so far we have had 100% response. And for the costs, you'll be looking at around $4,000 a month for subscription. But for the purchase of the product, you'll be looking at around 30,000.
You're close enough with those numbers. Look, can we, you happy, gentlemen? Can we call this to a close? And we've got a resolution here that we will put up on the screen in regard to the presentation you've made today. We'll just wait for that to happen. Look, I'll read it out. It's pretty much that the council receives the public forum from Wongwan from Mui-Robotics and two, provides a reply to you as soon as practical. So we've got a mover from Craig, seconded by David. All those in favour, please say aye. All those against, that's carried. So thank you for your presentation. And we've gone over time a wee bit, but it's been pretty interesting. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you for your time.
John Milligan could come to the table, please. And while John's on his way, John is the CEO of Food Bank Aotearoa, New Zealand, is here to talk to us today about the noticeable decrease in supplies through Canterbury due to natural disasters in the North Island. Welcome, John. And as with AIM, you've got 10 minutes to present the council. If we need to, we'll put the hand up for you to say that we've gone to 10, John. And just to remind councillors that John's presentation is on Docs on Tap. So when you're ready, John.
Tēnā koutou katoa. Marina, I'm John Milligan. I'm the Chief Executive of Food Bank Aotearoa, New Zealand. We also trade here in Christchurch as Food Bank Canterbury. And along with all our supporters, our board, our staff, and all our volunteers, we fight hunger. We aim to reduce food waste, and we feed hope to our whānau in need. In this first quarter of the year, the world is still in the grips of what many have described as one of the worst food crises in the modern history. We've had an enormous setback through the war in Ukraine, through agricultural systems, grappling with effects on the supply systems, all the extreme weather we've had and the climate change, including here in the North Island, and of course the pandemic. And the flow-on effect of all this is definitely the effect of inflation across the whole world. And it's very interesting because one of the the US envoys on food supply stated that the ranks of the food insecure are growing faster than our ability to provide humanitarian assistance. We can't just get out of the crisis by continually supplying food. The food crisis that we are suffering at the moment affects everybody right across the globe, and including us here in New Zealand. And just because we have a beautiful green country doesn't mean that we are not facing the same problems as they are all over the world. In fact, 1 in 5 kids in New Zealand will have gone to school this morning without breakfast, or they will go to bed tonight without tea. And 1 in 8 of our seniors, especially on a morning like this now, will have to decide whether they're going to turn the heater on this morning or whether they're going to go to the supermarket this afternoon to buy some needed food resources. So we are right in the throes of all this as well, right, even though we are here in New Zealand. And unfortunately, our growers in New Zealand and our producers, our manufacturers and the importers provide sufficient food in New Zealand to provide 3 nutritious meals on every person's table every single day. And that is not the case. The biggest problem we have here is food waste, and it's a global issue, and it's a major issue here in New Zealand as well. That 1/3 of all our food is totally wasted, and it's something that we really have to work very, very hard at combating. There's no cohesive policy in New Zealand underpinning the goal of individual food security or food wastage in this country. Canada has passed law. They've passed laws throughout Europe. I was online yesterday at an international conference which is running in Mexico City at the moment, and the feeling generally around the world is that food wastage is becoming a major issue in the whole area and the space of climate change, and something which we're really going to have to look at. One of the ways that we can combat it, and it's not the only key, and that is food banking. Food banking is definitely a green solution, a community-led solution to the food waste problem. Just to put it into perspective, I'd like to just explain briefly what food banking actually is, because the name's a little bit messed up in New Zealand. But on the left-hand side, you see on the screen there, are all the areas that we as Food Bank Aotearoa New Zealand here collect from. We work with the farms. We have some major vegetable exporters down from Dunsandel who provide us 1.5 tons of carrots, 1.5 tons of potatoes, 1.5 ton of onions every single week. And we have our contracts with both Foodstuffs and with Woolworths. We pick up all their goods going closer to best before date, or some goods that are slightly damaged. And we pick up, so that's our retail area. Fisheries, we work very closely with the counter fisheries. We get a lot of mussels from them, which is stuff they can't export, and we can get that and distribute that. We also work with meadow mushrooms and a lot of other areas, food manufacturers, right the way, the whole entire food chain, we're very, very involved with here. The only area we do not work with here in New Zealand, and that's because we're licensed by MPI, is we do not handle open food, so we cannot work with the restaurants and hospitality chains, unless they work like Tupai do with us, who are under contract with us, and they actually reprocess and wrap the food up after their sessions, which we can then take. So we can work with that. That is the food bank model. This is the international model of food bank. We collect all this, we bring it into our facilities, and just so you to know, we work from Oamaru all the way through. We have a hub in Timaru, we have a brand new hub in Ashburton, we have our major facility here in Riccarton. We supply right north of Kaikoura, right across Reefton and the coast. So we provide very much the area that ECAN works in as well, right through in Mackenzie Basin as well. So we bring our food into our facilities, and every item of food is checked for human consumability. If it doesn't work, it goes out to our pig farmers or our chicken farmers. So we have very little waste from that point of view in the food. At that point, that's the end of the food bank involvement. We then work with community organizations, charities, what we call our member beneficiary organizations who are under contract with us, to then pick up that food and rebag it, distribute it to those in the community in need. We do not work directly with the individuals because we are not social workers, and they normally have social workers who can deal with the holistic problem or issue if there is. So the community service organizations on the right-hand side of the slide, as you can see there, will work with those in need and work with the whānau that are out there. We have 161 organizations that we deal with on a weekly basis. And that goes from everybody from the City Mission through St. Vincent de Paul, right down through the Marais, the whole Marais system, right throughout the whole of the South Island we work very closely with, and right down through all the women's refuges, right down to the little individual Korean family that provide 170 meals at Latimer Square to the homeless every Sunday. So we work with a very wide variety of people, and that's how food banking works. And this is the recognized international model, and we are part of this model. So there are a number of issues, though. We believe that we've got to, in New Zealand, really start working towards this idea of a policy which we can hang our hats on to combat food waste, because food waste is a massive producer of methane gas and CO2 at our landfills. All the food that we pick up, and you'll see on the slide there, at our Christchurch facility, we will process today 6 tons of food, and that's every day of the week. And all that food would have gone into the red bin and ended up in the landfill. And one of the biggest producers of methane gas in this country, unfortunately, is bread. And we waste somewhere in the region of about 20 to 30 million loaves of bread a year we throw away as a nation. So massive, massive situation. We need to address it. We need to really work very hard at the whole food waste situation right across the country, and especially here in the areas that we serve. So how do we create the sense of urgency that we get to? We need to really look at our system. I mean, I'm talking here of the food chain specifically, which is very broken. The old models just do not work any longer. We have charities out there who are still working the way they started in 1864 or in the early 1900s, and they no longer work. We have to look at being more innovative. We need to speak up and stand up this cause. We need to raise issues that might make some people feel a bit uncomfortable, but we need to welcome conversations that expose in thoughtful ways some alternative perspectives in the way we can attach this. We need fresh thinking. We need fresh energy coming into the sector. And we need to be more adaptive than in the past. And we have to look at change as a whole. Unfortunately, the majority of times we get up and talk, we end up into the syndrome, which I tend to call blah, blah, blah. And we all talk about it and nothing happens at the end of the day. So our goal, and what I'm putting to the council this morning, Mr. Chairman, is that we need to take courage in what we do. We need to be foremost in our approach to food waste. I firmly believe that if the government is not going to stand up, and by the way, I serve on the Prime Minister's Scientific Council Advisory Committee on Food Waste in Wellington, but you know, we're just in an academic spin there and a political spin all the time. I believe that here in Christchurch, between organizations such as ECAN and the City Council and ourselves, we can start formulating a policy to reduce food waste. We have the models, we can do it here ourselves, and then we can stand up once again and say, hey, we're leading the country again in this and possibly the world and be a leading light. But we need the fresh thinking. It will take courage, it will take foresight, but I believe that Food Bank Aotearoa New Zealand has the tracking history and the impact history in what we do here in the South Island for our people and for our whānau. And I believe that we have something to offer. I believe that we could sit around the table and look at some of the community resilience that you guys are talking about, and that we could sit down together and we could be a willing participant in those discussions. Food affects everybody every single day. We need to be in the mode of decision making, but beyond that, we need to be in the mode of decision thinking and action. Tēnā koutou. Thank you for your time.
Look, thank you for that pretty inspiring presentation, and also thank you for your passion and your vision you brought into the room and your challenge, I guess, John. So we'll go to Councillor Karakia, who's got a question. Councillor Southworth has got a question.
Morning, John. Mihi Aotearoa. I love your work. I actually took the time to have a look at your website, and you know, 10.7 million meals provided and ongoing. So I just a couple of points of clarification. Also, like your whakaaro around, you know, there's a lot of no dewey rather, but I like that saying, after all that was said and done, there was more said than done. But ethnicities, I mean, and I would take it, if you look at the data, is that Māori actually would be, you know, a big kind of recipient of food banks. Is that correct?
It's definitely, most definitely, and it's not just iwi. It goes through to our Pacifica peoples and also to our refugee groups.
Sorry, I'm leading into this one. Is that you talked about working with marae and the marae system? Is that at its infancy, or is that actually something that's really starting to develop?
We work very closely with the two major maraes here in Christchurch. We then got into an initiative with through Timatanga, and so we are working now down with the maraes down in Temuka, Ashburton, Temuka, Timaru, as well as a lot of the remote maraes around some of the remote areas of the Mackenzie Basin, which really concerned us because we tended to concentrate all our efforts and business into the metropolitan areas down the coast. And we forget that this is a massive rural area that is really hurting and have their own amount. So yeah, we're covering it very extensively.
Just conscious of time, we've got two more questions, one from Vicky, then one from Craig, and I think we'll wrap up, John.
That was really interesting and really important what you're doing. And I'm really interested in, you've talked about the sort of potential climate change effects of methane emissions and so on from food rotting versus actually finding good routes for it to go. Are you looking for some, or do you already feel like you have a good connection between the TAs and Environment Canterbury in the sense of being able to help to formulate policy and action things, or do you already have a connection with TAs? Presumably not with us, or you wouldn't be here today. But is there some sort of foundation thing already happening where you've got some connections, or are you asking for us to support you to build a bit of a network?
It is the latter, because we do not have a lot of support from Wellington. We have very little financial support from Wellington. To give a very good example, $9 million was allocated to food relief for Gabriel. All that money went to Auckland, not going to the Bay or anywhere else, and then nothing came down here. And we are now feeling the backwash of Gabriel down here. We're feeling the backwash of food supply not coming through. We're feeling the pricing going back up, and we're also feeling the backwash of so many individuals who come down because they're now homeless up there and living with whānau down here. So this is an initiative that we really need to pick up and go with.
Kia ora. Hey, kia ora, John. Thanks so much. Like others have said, a very good presentation. Thank you for sort of enlightening us, actually. I mean, something pretty new to me, although it all makes a lot of sense. And obviously there's that environmental sort of issue there at the end of it about food waste, climate change, methane production, all that. So thank you. I don't really have a question so much, Peter, but I'm really looking forward to what we might be able to, the response we'll get from our staff in terms of how we could help you in terms of what Vicky said. And one thought I had, and it's actually a question for Joe and David, about the Canterbury Joint Waste Committee, I think that's what it's called, and whether that might be a place to take this. It could be that John presents to that group because all the TAs are there. So that was just my thought, just to throw that out there. And but hopefully that'll come through our response to you as well, John. So thank you.
Right, thank you. Look, we're going to give Joe one last crack at this because Joe and John are the connection for John being here. So Joe.
Yeah, thank you very much, John. There's actually more to do with the resolution that we're going to look at now, just in terms of future steps. I was wondering as well if we could possibly somehow endorse John or recommend John to actually make the same presentation to see them as well, our Civil Defence Emergency Management Group, just because, you know, I think in a future event, you know, a distributor like John is going to be very significant to the food well-being of people in Canterbury. So, yeah, that's my, yeah.
I'll go to CDM. John? Yep. Is that something you'd support? Yep.
Yes.
Good. All right. Well, I think we'll just stick with our recommendation that we have on the table here. Joe, unless there's some support for Joe's.
We note those two things about the Waste Committee and the CDM. You know, note that for the response.
I think the point, Craig, is a good one. I think that there's an opportunity there through that Waste Committee we haven't developed. We need a better waste strategy than what we've got. We've just rejoined, John, for your information, the Regional Waste Committee, but that obviously points to, you know, how can you minimise the stuff that you were talking about going to landfill for that climate effect.
The point it would feed into the lifelines conversation within civil defence, so just making them aware of the conversation.
Yeah, just to reiterate too, fantastic, thank you very much. I think it works beautifully across our areas of responsibility, and probably out of our annual plan, one of our key things is leading climate change resilience, and I think that just reinforces a bigger picture. So thank you very much. Kia ora.
Yeah, kia ora. Thank you. Look, that's been moved by Councillor Davies. Have we got a seconder, please? Thank you, Genevieve. Councillor Robinson. All those in favour, please say aye. All those against, say no. That's carried. Thank you very much, John. Thanks for coming in. And Aim, also thank you again.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Council, for the time.
I thank you, councillors. We're going to move now to item 5, which is extraordinary and urgent business, and there has been none brought to my attention. So we'll move to 6, notices of motion. There are no notices of motion. And 7, so we'll move to 7.1, unconfirmed council minutes from the 15th of February 2023. And we're looking at councillors looking at those for accuracy relating to those minutes for that date. Are there any matters of accuracy? If there aren't, we'll put the motion up on the table. There's the motion. Have a mover for that. Thank you, Councillor Davies. Thank you, Councillor Mackay. Any discussion? There being no discussion, all those in favour, please say aye. All those against? That's carried. Now, as advised, we're looking to go into public excluded. Just to get some of these items, which may take some time, get through those items. So at this point in time, can I ask people that shouldn't be in the room, not to be in the room? And that includes, unfortunately, the media. So if you could,
Then that for people to walk out.
okay. Okay, so I'll just read this out, that Emma Davis, Senior Strategy Manager, and Alex Morgan, Team Leader, Strategy and Planning, remain after the public have been excluded by item 9.2.2 of the public excluded agenda, and that Lee Griffiths, General Manager, Field Operations, Brian Elliott, Chief Financial Officer, and Jessie Burgess, Senior Manager, Strategy Manager, remain after the public have been excluded for 9.2.3, as they have knowledge that is relevant to those items and will assist the council, and that at 11:15, resolution to exclude the public set out on page 2,207 to determine an agenda be adopted. Please confirm that you understand. Thank you, Craig. A movement by Craig, seconded by Nick Ward. All those in favour, please say aye. All those against, say no. That's carried. All right. So we're in PX. I think.
Just note there's an error on page 47 where it says at point 5 it says the Civil Defence Emergency Management Joint Committee when it's regarding the Regional Transport Committee. And the second point to note is within the CDM minutes, there is at 8.4 on page 58, there is a request from the group regarding Environment Canterbury, that the rates continue to replenish the reserves as set for the 22-23 annual plan. So that was noted at that committee that that they request that to us. And at this point, I don't see the need to. It's no follow up, but it's just important for this council to note that, I think.
Can you tell us the first one again on page 47? What was that one? Oh, true. I see it under resolved. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Oh, that's good. So we can note those amendments that need to be made, or because these haven't gone to the committee yet, have they?
These are just the unconfirmed.
They're unconfirmed minutes. So thanks, Joe. Thanks for picking that up. That'll get picked up when it goes back to the regional transport committee. And so I had Councillor East and Councillor Mackenzie moved and seconded the motion. Sorry, I was going to find it. That the council notes the minutes and information received in relation to the recent joint external and limited membership committees, unconfirmed minutes of the Regional Transport Committee, 23rd of February, noting Councillor Davies' point there, and unconfirmed minutes of the Civil Defence Emergency Management Group Joint Committee, 23rd of February. Again, noting what Councillor Davies said. All those in favour, or any discussion needed? All those in favour? Any against? Carried. Thank you. So we'll go to 8.2, which is the council resolution status report for March. Has anyone got any questions or clarification about this? Reasonably straightforward. Yeah, Councillor David.
Well, I kind of don't like having to do this, but I'm going to have to vote against the resolution at this point, just simply because of the status of the notice of motion that we have spoken to today.
Fine, Councillor Davies, we'll move it, second it, and then you can make your point. All good. Do we have a mover for this? Councillor Ward, and seconded by Councillor Mackenzie. So that's that the council notes the status of previous resolution provided in the status of council resolutions report March 2023. Yes, anyone want to speak to it? You can speak now if you want to.
I will just be voting against this because I think that the status of the report item 6, which is the first item there, is actually incomplete. So I'll be voting against this resolution because of that.
Anyone else want to raise any matters or discuss this? All good. So I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Any against? Joe, Councillor Davies, can you note that, please? Thank you. 8.4. This is the local government statement. So we'll take it as read. Oh, sorry, I've skipped one. Okay, 8.3. Sorry, 8.3. Delegating authority to approve submissions for territorial authorities, annual and long-term plans. So again, we'll take it as read anyway, but has anyone got any clarification questions? Yep, Vicky.
I'm just interested to know if the chair is receiving, is making a decision about not doing a submission, will we receive information that that decision has been made and why?
Yes, that would be absolutely our intent.
The process talks about councils being given feedback about what's happening, so you can give feedback before they get signed off. So. Any other questions for Emma? Do I have a mover? Councillor Edge, seconder, Councillor Burns. Cool. Any discussion you want to have? No? Very good. I did note that. Oh no, sorry. Next point. Next one. So we'll put this to the vote. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Carried. Thank you. Okay, now 8.4. My mind's racing ahead. Okay, local government statement. So I'm happy, Catherine. Yeah, come to the table. Is something you want to introduce about this, Catherine?
Not often I've forgotten the button. There's an amendment here that we had put an incorrect name in there. So the attachment at section 8.2 needs to have corrected with Councillor Sunkel as the representative and Councillor Davies as an observer.
Thank you, Catherine. Any other questions or clarification? Yes, Councillor Davies.
We made once in every 6-year period after first determination, the next review will occur in the 25-year period. That means it will be 6 council or the council beyond that will have representation in not this one.
Yes, that's correct.
Any other questions? Clarification, yep.
I've got one that's probably might be too specific, but it might need to come back as an answer. But under the biodiversity and biosecurity, we talk about priority ecosystems under the third bullet point, page. Oh, it's really hard to see it on here. 81 it is, yeah, like 31. 81, and the third bullet point, and it talks about engaging with Ngāi Tahu, landowners, communities, for deliver more effective and efficient outcomes for priority ecosystems. So I'm just wondering, how do we define our priority ecosystems, or where is it captured what we're calling our priority ecosystems? Is that through the Canterbury Biodiversity Strategy, or are they defined somewhere or listed somewhere? How do we?
So these descriptions were picked up from previous work in the draft annual plan descriptions and program descriptions. So the programs of work will pick up and define those that will go then through the committee structure and out to council.
Councillor Southwood, could I suggest that might be a better question for the biodiversity and biosecurity portfolio meeting? Because yeah, it's a really good question, but I don't know if we can address it in relation to this matter here.
Yeah, that's because it doesn't always come up. The opportunity doesn't always come up in the relevant committee. So yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Either through a briefing or maybe it is the next biosecurity biodiversity meeting. Yeah, Councillor Swiggs.
Yeah, there was just one point on the standing committee things. It's on page, I think it's 210. The Audit, Finance and Risk Committee, the membership isn't at least 6 councillors, it's just 6 councillors. Remember, we voted on that. The up to 6 councillors was, well, at least 6 councillors was voted down in favour of just appointing 6. And do we need to also then note the 2 external members on there as well?
The particular requirement here is what the councillor membership is. So we could put them in as additional, but there's nothing to stop us putting extra in. If you would like us to add the independent members, we can add the independent members.
It's more focused on that. It's not at least 6, it's just 6.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Dion. And what we could just put there is membership could be 6 councillors and 2 independents. They don't need to name them, I don't think. Would people be happy with that? Yeah. Sound good. Any other questions for Catherine? No? Good. Thanks, Catherine. So now we'll put the resolution to the vote. Oh, sorry, we'll move it. We're going to move for this. Councillor Swiggs, thank you. Seconder, Councillor Davies, thank you. So I noted that we're just making some amendments on screen here, so just bear with us. Any chance of like making that smaller so we can see more of it? Sorry. We can just reduce down from 110%. Probably be easier, but it's all good. No worries. Cool, thank you. Yeah, great. So I think it's still okay to take them as a group if people are happy. We go up to, oh, yeah, sorry. There's Councillor Swiggs and Councillor Davies. Thank you. Let's just look at number 1 again. So just so everyone's clear, 1 would be approve the local government statement as outlined in attachment 8.4.1 with the following amendments, maybe. Section 8.1, Audit Finance Risk Committee, that the membership of 6 councillors and 2 independents. Add Councillor East to the membership of the Civil Regulation Hearing Committee, and the Civil Defence one there about John and Joe, their role there. Is everyone happy with that? Yep. Are you happy, Dion and Joe? And 2 independents, yeah. Independent. Yeah. But at least one, is it? Okay, good. One independent member. No, anyway, all good. Cool. Everyone happy? Okay, we happy to move that as a block? And can we just go have a look at the red lettering, red wording down below? Delegate. Yep, happy to add that one as well. That wasn't in the, I don't think it was in our original papers, was it? But that's a recommendation from staff to add that there so that minor editorial changes can be made. Everyone happy? Should we take that as a block? Happy, Down and Joe? Okay, all those in favour, say aye. Any against? Carried, thank you. Okay, 8.5. This is the submission for the future for local government. Thank you. Did you want to introduce anything in relation to this? I mean, it's gone, hasn't it? But
It has gone. Cecilia was going to introduce this, but yes, we've had a good discussion about this. We have lodged the submission to the.
Get back to you if you want.
Thank you, Chair. So this paper is just to present our submission on the Future for Local Government review. The submission has been lodged at the end of February. There was extensive engagement with the council through a number of workshops from last year and this year that informed that. And yeah, it's a comprehensive review representing the views of Environment Canterbury for consideration.
Thank you. Has anyone got any questions of clarification? No, looks like you're off the hook. You can step back from the table. Thank you. Is there anyone would like to move the motion? Councillor Swiggs, any seconder? Councillor Edge. Do we want to have any discussion on this? Yeah, what's the Councillor Edge? Yeah.
Just really, we await the report in June in anticipation that some of the things that we've put forward will be taken account of to improve the original draft.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, local government is in a peculiar place at the moment, especially with all the other changes that are taking place. The other regulations and stuff that the government's pushing through is going to fundamentally change local government, even without this type of thing. So I think it's really important that when we, go to submit it on this and the continuation, once that report comes through, that we actually make sure that we work with our partners and the other agencies together to get the better outcomes for our communities, because there's a real risk at the moment of everything getting centralised and made bigger in the hope of efficiencies, but that doesn't always actually happen. And what's efficient? Is it money efficiency, or is it actually getting better outcomes for our communities and for our environment and all of those things? So really, this is really important stuff. And our staff have done a wonderful job in making this, presenting this and all this sort of stuff. So, I just wanted to make that point known. This is only the first step. There's a few more steps to go, and we do need to work together with our other councils, all of the councils in our region.
Yeah, kia ora, Councillor Reeves. Thanks.
Sorry, Chair. I just meant to acknowledge on page 131 that we also included a joint statement from Papatipu Runanga as part of our TUIA agreement. So that's really important for government to understand our partnership and how we work here in Canterbury.
Kia ora. Yeah, and I'd like to add to this as well. I think, first of all, big congratulations to our staff for putting together another comprehensive submission straight on the back of the RMA reform submission as well that we presented recently to the select committee. So, a lot of work has to go on to form our views, and wanted to support what Councillor Swiggs and Councillor Ridge have said. In particular, how important it is to have that Ngāi Tahu or joint statement with Ngāi Tahu there from the Tuia work. So, and there's been a lot of talk recently, hasn't there, about what the future of local government might mean, and some people talking about unitary authorities, etc. And I think it's really important that our submission is really clear about the importance of regional government, and that you really do need, like Dion said, to think about what is the best form and function to get the best outcomes, particularly, I think, when we think about the challenges we're currently facing around climate change, biodiversity issues, water issues, and actually having a regional view of things is important. So I think that's something to really put, that's great that our submission puts that out there. Also that you do need to have someone that is looking after the environmental outcomes and the protection for our region. And if you take that role away, where does that sit? And thirdly, going back to the joint statement there, the role that, or the work that regional councils in particular, but in particular this council's done, trying to build a better relationship with mana whenua is critical for going forward, for all local government, in fact, but in particular for regional councils or whoever ends up with roles around looking after our natural environment and our natural resources. So that's a journey that we've definitely been on, and other regional councils are. And that's important to note going forward, that those relationships are going to be critical. So, thanks again to the staff, and look forward to seeing the results of our submission and what the government can do next, but also working with all of our TAs, Ngāi Tahu, Papatopi Runanga, and our local communities on what the best form is going forward. So, thank you. So I'll put it to the vote, unless Councillor Karakia, you want to say something?
Ai mihi ki ka koe o te mana tuarua. I also want to acknowledge the former two speakers, particularly in regards to the role of this very, very progressive council, and particularly around the appointment of the Ngāi Tahu, two Ngāi Tahu councillors, or te Māngai mō Kai Tahu o te Kaunihira Taio ki Waitaha. I want to particularly highlight the letter from an attachment 2 from the Attorney General, in particular around the consistency with the New Zealand Bill of Rights Act 1990, Canterbury Regional Council Ngāi Tahu Representation Bill. The proof there is what you would possibly say is in the pudding. But I think the important thing is that governments' regimes come and go. And if we look at the situation by where when we were appointed, it was really important that the two appointed Ngāi Tahu councillors work and prove actually that this arrangement is actually how progressive it is, and it needs to reflect that. And a lot of that has actually been about working with our other 16 council colleagues. And so I go back to when we were the first day of council. It still feels that there's a guillotine sitting over our head, and that we have to prove in this triennium actually that this particular piece of legislation is progressive, it's forward thinking, and it actually will, I believe, form a true partnership, a working partnership, actually with Tangata Tiriti and the treaty partner. So kia ora to, again, those councillors that were in the last triennium, because it was your courage and your progressiveness actually is the reason why we're sitting here today, and we need to prove the fact is that that this is actually going to work. Kia ora.
Thanks, Councillor Cormack. Also happy to put that to the vote. All those in favour, please say aye. Any against? Carried. Thank you. Move on to 8.6, and this is the risk framework. Giles is here. Be great if you can come and introduce this, Giles. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. This is the risk framework, which is a core part of the overall framework of policies that the Council approves. It provides the framework, surprise, background and necessary approaches to develop the maturity and risk management that we're seeking to achieve. It's been considered by the executive leadership team, then presented to the Audit, Finance and Risk Committee for endorsement and recommended approval to full council. Just would like to make the point that we do see this as a very live document, and that as our experience of using it, we will seek to change it and flex it to respond to our experience, and would bring any subsequent significant changes back through the AFRC to council. There was a lot of debate at the AFRC about the level at which risks would automatically be reported through to councillors. Our advice and our proposal is that we stick with the arrangements that are proposed, recognising that we will continue to monitor that to ensure that council is getting full visibility of the range of risks that it wants to see and monitor, noting that those risks that automatically are reported to council because of their residual rating does not exclude other risks being reported on an ongoing basis or on an as request basis. Happy to take any further questions.
Thank you, Giles. And I was meant to ask Grant to introduce, but maybe you can do that in the discussion. Grant will start off with that. Has anyone got any questions of Giles? Yeah, Councillor East.
Not so much a question, but a commendation of the work that has been done to date. This is an area that I have had a lot of involvement in the last 10 years. Being a board member of Trans Waste, it was a subject that was first on the agenda at every meeting. I was Deputy Chair of the Health and Safety Committee for the City Council and Chairman of the Health and Safety Committee for the Christchurch Stadium, Orange Theory. So it is something that's fairly near and dear to me. As I said, I commend the work that's been done. I have an amendment that I'd like to put to the committee that it's my belief that this is a fairly intense and quite complex subject, and with no disrespect to the ARFC, there's a huge amount of financial risk management and other activities that committee deals with, and my observation to date is that the health and safety issues seem to be a line item paper in the ARFC noting the receipt of a particular report. So I would like to make an amendment, number 2, to this recommendation that staff report on the feasibility of creating either A, standalone health and safety committee, or B, a health and safety subcommittee of ARFC. It's my contention that this is a huge subject that has a lot of implications, both for the well-being of our people and possible litigation, that I feel it needs a lot more consideration than we are giving it at the moment. So with your permission, I'd like to add that as an amendment to the motion, and hopefully someone may feel inclined to second it.
Thanks, Councillor East. I'm wondering, Giles, do you have any response that you want to give to that at the moment? Or I'm more thinking, like, first of all, I think it might have been good to do that after we moved the original motion. But yeah, I'm sorry, I'm a bit out of my depth here in terms of because it's quite in depth what you asked for.
Yeah, we need to deal with the substantive motion.
Yeah, it's more like an addition, right?
Yeah.
Councillor East. It's an addition. Yeah, yeah. So, so first of all, could I have a mover and a seconder for the motion that's on the table? So Councillor Edge and Councillor Ward. So that's there. And then, actually, do you want to speak to this as well, Grant? And that might give a bit more information, and then we'll come back to you, David.
Thanks, Chair. Yes, I will speak to this. This is a big body of work undertaken by the committee, and it does include assessment of risk, strategic risk, operational risk, and health and safety risk. And at our last meeting, we did actually consider those things that Councillor East may bring up in a wee minute, and felt that we have that issue of greater awareness and bringing it forward. The health and safety stuff is at the front end of our future audit, finance and risk meetings. So I don't really see a problem with that. But I mean, the point of the framework, it is a living document and it covers a range of things, but it gives some good guidance for the whole organisation, across the whole organisation, to, I suppose, embed a culture of risk awareness throughout everybody in the organisation, and that's a really good thing, because it means that everybody's thinking about what they're doing and what it may mean for themselves, for the organisation, and for the public. And once we've sort of integrated that, there will also be a little bit of a common language. Now, I draw these comments from page 143, and also draw your attention to, in terms of the organisational side of things, page 149 there talks about organisational wide, and its ownership and strategic risk. The executive team, council itself needs to be aware of some of the risks and its responsibilities, especially health and safety. And there is a strategy and a process that will be gone through, and there's some appendices there which describe the sorts of things that will be looked at as part of this framework, and staff will come back to us as they develop this. And page 161, just what we were talking about before, there's some in terms of our risk appetite. There's a statement there about what Environment Canterbury has a low or no residual risk appetite for risks that will compromise Environment Canterbury's commitment to partnering with all Papatapi Runanga within Canterbury, Rohe and Te Runanga o Ngāi Tahu. So that's one of those things, that there are some bottom lines for the organisation, that it has very low or no appetite to undertake those sort of risks. But look, it's a start, and we're starting that whole process. It's got terms and definitions, and it's something that we're working on, and the staff will bring to us over during all our committee meetings. That's sufficient at the moment.
Thank you. Councillor Ward, do you want to speak to this at the moment as a seconder, or you will speak at the end? Yeah.
I've read it too, and I'll just reiterate everything that Councillor just said.
Councillor East, we've got it written up now, what you requested, so that's good. We can all see it, because it's probably a bit hard to follow it straight away. But I'll just go to, I've got Councillor Korako, Councillor Southward to just have a discussion as well.
Kia ora, anō. I just want to acknowledge Councillor East and the email that he sent actually to the chair and the around the part of the risk management framework for health and safety. And it was actually, we had a very robust discussion actually about it. The next part of this, though, I'd like to this is just a point of clarification around point number 6 in the risk framework. Are you able Giles, are you able just to elaborate on the engagement, significance and Māori participation on that point number 6 for the benefit, I think, of my colleagues sitting at Te here?
Just that's the comment there at the bottom of page 139. Understand.
It's if I can help them. Yep. So the application of the risk management framework throughout Environment Canterbury will increase the effectiveness and efficiency of risk identification and mitigation, including risks that relate to our partnership with Ngāi Tahu and Māori participation. Again, it's the wording, because we keep saying Ngāi Tahu. What does that mean? The different faces. So are we saying here in this point number 6, Giles, we are talking about a cultural audit sort of kind of process, aren't we?
So we are, in terms of our assurance program, we are talking about a cultural audit, and that will take many dimensions. Part of that is the success of embedding our two-year partnership and the work that we're doing on two-year Te Harenga. This is about making sure that in our approach to risk, we explicitly consider the risk and opportunities related to our engagement with Ngāi Tahu, Runanga, Mana Whenua, so that actually we reflect that in thinking about how do we support the improvement of the organisation and its performance, and therefore the outcomes we're trying to achieve. So it's about embedding that thinking through two-year Te Harenga and the risk approach in everything that we do. So this is about saying that if we're more explicit in thinking about risk by applying this framework, we will begin to embed that conversation more effectively across the organisation. That will be supported through the assurance framework, which, as we've talked about at the audit committee last week and approved the programme, that there will be a specific cultural audit that will be undertaken as part of that programme to provide us or provide council with some assurance on the progress that we believe we are making, and also the extent of the journey that we still have to go on.
Yeah, I just wanted to, so the conversation that was at Audit, Finance and Risk around the residual risk that were brought back to council level, not just to executive leadership team, that setting of a level of 15 and above, I still feel that personally feel that that's still too high, and that perhaps something like what Councillor East is talking about would mean that a group could look at more of the detail. But just to explain, so for a and the residual risk, I'm understanding the residual risk, the likelihood, so a figure of 12 instead of 15 would be cast as something that's possible, so that could occur every 2 to 10 years. A major, that gives you a figure of 12. Major in the context of health and safety would be a permanent injury or long-term reduced capacity to work. In terms of financial, it's $1 to $10 million of risk. And in terms of reputation, national media attention. So potentially every 2 years. And I just feel like that's a level that council should have some oversight over, not 15. And the other point of it was, and this was a point raised by one of our independents, was that we're actually looking to be monitoring, so it's tracking changes. And so if you only sit at 15 and above, you might be missing changes that are occurring at those lower frequencies, that are occurring at those lower numbers of predicted risk. I mean, this is all about modelled, and there's a certain level of assumptions going into this, but it just feels, I think particularly, and I accept that it's coming from sort of best practice, but I think more driven from overseas. Now, I do feel like New Zealand is somewhat behind the curveball on some of this, and so maybe as we're trying to actually improve here, we maybe set something a bit lower for now, and then if we reach a point where we go, actually no, we're comfortable with just going over 15, at that point say, yep, okay, we're comfortable with that now. But I feel like as we're on a learning journey, then maybe pitching a bit lower on there would be sensible.
Thanks, Councillor Southworth.
I mean, I don't think we could make that change today, but I think we've noted that it's an evolving document and that the Audit, Finance and Risk Committee can obviously look at this and keep evolving it. And that's, good point though, really good point. So I wanted to go back to Councillor East now that we've got it on the table, and to see if we've got a seconder, first of all, for what Councillor East has put forward. Is there a seconder to make an amendment? Because we need one if we're going to put it. Yeah, seconder. Thanks. And yeah, we'll go to Councillor Mackenzie, and then I'll come back to you, Councillor East.
So I guess my reservation about the wording that Councillor East has got up there is that the accountability and therefore the responsibility for health and safety sits with the Chief Executive, although as councillors we have a duty of care. And so I'd suggest that the wording should be, what did I write down here? As to whether report as to whether it is appropriate to create. And I'm not trying to play on words, but it seems to me that given where the responsibility sits, I think we need advice from our Chief Executive as to what she thinks is the appropriate structure. And if she favours either one of the options that the Councillor East has put up there, then that's advice that would that I can support. But I don't want to be involved in putting in structures which gets in the way of the Chief Executive's responsibilities here.
I'm happy to make that.
Oh, no, thank you, Ian. Thank you, David. I mean, I would have thought feasibility is about appropriateness as well, but take your point. And of course, it is a staff report that they can come back to us on, so Stephanie will definitely be involved in that. So, I think it's fair enough that we ask for that report to come back. So, did you want to make that change to, what was it, appropriateness?
Just change it to the staff report on whether it is appropriate to create.
Southwest? Yeah, good. All good. Is anyone, any other discussion on this? Do you want to speak to that again, Councillor East? Are you happy? Good. Are you happy?
Risk framework that has been evolved to date. It's been noted that it's a living document and always will be. And just emphasising my desire to see health and safety elevated to a higher level than we have it at the moment.
You, Councillor East. I've got Councillor Edge and then Councillor Karakia.
I disagree with this. I think that the Audit, Finance and Risk Committee have a really good framework for assessing risk. I don't believe that we need another committee or another subcommittee to do the work that the Audit, Finance and Risk Committee is doing. And I think it's really unnecessary. And in fact, at our last meeting, we did discuss this in depth and agreed that it wasn't necessary to go through another separate committee. We kind of have enough committees as it is. And I think that the fact that we have dedicated staff who are dealing with health and safety issues through this framework, that's totally sufficient.
Councillor Edge, Councillor Karakia.
I just want to make sure that the staff actually understand exactly what is required here, because I wouldn't want to go back to the almost an hour discussion we had this morning on another report. That's the first thing. I think the second thing, though, and just hearing from Councillor Edge, his response, this is where we get into the situation is this is a report. And then I think that we could have more of an informed discussion. Once the report is received, we get to view it, respond to it, discuss it, and then either put it to the vote and move on. Is that where, this is where we've got to be quite clear is that we're asking for a report. What Councillor Edge is probably doing is actually going kind of the step forward. I think everyone wants to sort of make an informed decision through the report. So I actually support what is up there, asking the staff to report on whether it is appropriate to create either A or B. Can they do that with the discussions that were had at our Finance Audit and Risk Committee? Because that.
Sorry, but I mean, there's two ways to deal with it right here. We can put it to the vote, and if it passes, then if it doesn't, then that's the end of it right here. Or we put it to the vote, because I think we've got to move in a second, and that's what we're going to do, is put it to the vote. If it passes, well, it's a report that staff will do, and either come back to this council or to the Audit, Finance and Risk Committee. Should we note that, though? What is the preference? Have you got a comment you'd like that?
My advice is if the report is asked from the council here, it needs to
come back here.
council.
No, good. That's good.
That is seeking the report.
No, thank you. So are we clear? It'll come back to the full council meeting. Deal.
I just wanted to, again, another procedural thing. Are we asking, and David, you might be able to answer this, are you asking for a report or advice? Because there is quite a difference. One will take quite a bit of work from the staff, and advice is relatively simple.
I think it's, yeah, a report. It's a paper, right? A paper that'll come back, or is it just I don't know, mate. But it's a good point, Dion. Knowing what we went through already today. Yeah.
The report is probably going to give us advice anyway, so.
It'll be something written, I'd imagine.
The reason I say this is because a report has to formally come back to a council meeting. If it was just advice, it could be circulated to us in either an email or one of our briefings or something along those lines, without it necessarily being so formalised through an actual agenda. That's all.
Well, probably should come back to this council because we're asking for it here. So let's. I'm happy with the wording as long as the mover and seconder. Yeah, let's put it to the vote, eh? Yeah. All those in favour, please say aye. Any against? Yeah, Councillor Edge. I think that's carried. Thank you.
That was just.
Oh, just that bit? Okay,
the,
now we go back.
Now we'll do
okay, true. That altogether.
Yes.
Could be an issue if Councillor Edge doesn't want to.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you are going to, if you are no longer going to move that now that that's been added, would you like to pull out?
Yes. You mover and seconder for the. You'll move it, Councillor Swiggs. And Councillor Ward, you still happy to second? Okay, that's a good process, I'm assured.
Yeah.
Yes, of course there can be. Yeah.
I just want to remind councillors, if I may, the terms of reference for the Audit, Finance and Risk Committee has a risk management function. And that is to review the risk management process to ensure the process for identifying, assessing, monitoring, mitigating and reporting strategic and other key organisational wide risks, including critical health, safety and well-being risks, is adequate. That is a function of the Audit, Finance and Risk Committee. So I am suggesting that councillors should not support this, but that's my opinion.
Thanks, Councillor Edge. Any other discussion?
Kia ora. The way I saw this was that there's a report that's going to come as to the appropriateness or of A and B. So that report is then going to, even if you had a committee, they wouldn't be making that committee, the terms of reference of that committee. They wouldn't be, I wouldn't think the committee would be actually overriding the audit and risk and compliance.
I don't think we should overthink this. The motion's been agreed, this part 2 has. It's a staff report that'll come back to here. It'll satisfy Councillor East's question that we've supported actually through agreeing to 2. Let's hear that. Well, yes, we've got Grant. Take your point as the chair of Audit Financial Risk. You already got that in there, but there's no harm in seeing whether a subcommittee of that group to raise the profile of the things David East, Councillor East has talked about is appropriate. Staff will tell us whether they think it is or not, whether that helps. If it doesn't help, then I'm sure they'll tell us. So, are we happy? Yep, Councillor Wicks.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, just to say, I see this as being about seeing whether there's a mechanism that just elevates health and safety, probably just for potentially just for a finite time, just to really make sure we've really got some really good understanding about this within the council, and to see how we can support improvements. And that's what will come back. So yeah, I suppose.
Yeah, I just wanted to close off. I read this report 3 or 4 times actually. It was actually really interesting, and it's some really good work. So I just wanted to say, I think we got kind of lost in it a little bit, but I just wanted to say personally thank you to everybody, including the Audit, Risk and Finance Committee, who have been part of making this. It's a huge amount of work, and it's actually quite a step change for this council, I think, in terms of the way it manages risk and a whole lot of other stuff. And I'm just going to say I look forward to reading the report.
On that noted, yeah.
Only in respect
to 2. Yeah.
In respect to my disapproval of item 2, I'm absolutely endorsing item 1.
I think we thought that. So thank you. Thanks, Charles. Thanks for the work too. And I endorse what Councillor Swiggs said. Thank you. I know time's pushing on, but we've got 2 more things to do. We have an option here. We have to be another, by a certain time. But we've got 2 items to go. There's the terms of reference update, and then there's the Canterbury Waste Joint Committee. I don't want to rush it. So the option is that we adjourn the meeting, and we would have to use our councillor time next Wednesday to finish the meeting off, which would probably only take half an hour, I'd hope. That's one option available to us, or we try to get it done in like 5 minutes, but I don't think enough that's appropriate. So any discussion from councillors on that matter? 2 options: adjourn, finish it off on Wednesday next week, which we can, I'm assured we can do. We can keep it open as long as we state the time and place where we're going to do that, or we carry on. Yeah.
Well, I mean, personally, from my thoughts, these 2 are relatively procedural items, and we've discussed both of those at the different committees, so they should relatively go through quite easily. It's my thoughts.
Is that the general consensus? Okay, cool. Well, we're carrying on then. Thanks for that, Councillor Swiggs, and thanks everybody for doing that. So we'll go to 8.7, terms of reference for standing committees and statutory committees. So the motions are on the table there now. Just to explain, well, some of these committees have met for the first time, and they've had a look at their terms of references. They've made their own changes, so that's why it's got updated there. And then there's some that haven't met yet, so that's updating them as well. So everyone happy? Councillor Mackenzie will move. The seconder, Councillor East. Any discussion? Good. All those in favour, please say aye. Any against? Carries. Thank you. Okay, 8.8. This is the ratification of the Canterbury Waste Joint Management Committee. We'll take the paper as read. Is there any questions around this? People are reasonably happy. Joe and David, who have been involved in it.
I'm happy to move the recommendation. The Canterbury Joint Waste Committee met couple of weeks or more ago. The committee approved the changes as they are identified today. So I don't see any need to prolong the discussion. It's already been done at that committee level. What this council wanted has been approved. So happy to move the ratification.
Thank you, Councillor East. Seconder, Councillor McKenzie. Great. Any discussion? No. All those in favour, please say aye. Any against? Great, carried. Okay, next meeting. Now we don't have to do next Wednesday. There you go. Thank you. Next meeting is the 19th, Wednesday, the 19th of April at 10:30 a.m. We're going to go to Karakia. We made it. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. I'm happy to do that. Ai, nei te mihi kia koutou mō koutou mahi tēnei ahiahi, tēnei rā, mō tēnei hui o tātou. Ai, kei te mihi, nā mihi kia koutou nā kaimahi, hei tautoko, tēnei kaunihera, tēnei mahi, tēnā koutou, he karakia Whakamutunga, o tēnei hui, unuhia ki turu tapu nui a tāne, kia wātea, kia māma, te nākau, te tinana, te wairua i te ara takata, koe ara e rongo whakiiriaki ki runga ki a tīna, haumi e hui e pā ki e kia ora koutou. Thank you.